So today, our mission is to dive straight into the August 21st, 2026 issue of the Waldenstrom Digest. This is published by the IWMF, and we are looking at how patients and doctors and advocates actually navigate this incredibly complex terrain.
Which is not easy to do.
No, not at all. It is really about bridging the gap between this highly technical medical science and the deeply human reality of living with WM.
And I think what stands out immediately in this digest, at least to me, is the sheer scale of the operation required to support that navigation.
Yeah. You definitely see that ambition right up front. Like, they have the launch of their new podcast coming up on September 15th.
Right. Which perfectly aligns with World Lymphoma Awareness Day, by the way.
Oh, that is a great detail. Yeah. So the show is called Waldenstrom Unplugged, Words Matter.
Yeah.
And they have paired Professor Shirley Dasa with patient advocate Bob Perry as co-hosts.
Which is such a smart dynamic, having the clinical side right next to the lived experience.
It really is. And listeners can even email PR@IWMF.com to get their specific questions featured.
That direct line of communication is huge.
It is. But, it is the structural announcements right alongside this podcast that really caught my eye. So they announced 2 new staff hires. Whitney Musitano as Vice President of Donor and Volunteer Engagement, and Faith Bone as Senior Manager of Executive Operations and Governance. And the newsletter highlights that between them, they have like 40 years of corporate and nonprofit experience.
They do. Faith Bone is bringing process improvement and board governance, and then Whitney Musitano is bringing national volunteer strategy.
Oh, okay.
Without that level of, let's call it corporate efficiency, the money just doesn't move. Scientific research funding bottlenecks.
Right.
So by optimizing the governance, you are actually enabling the compassion to scale globally.
Corporate governance as the engine for global compassion. I really like that framing. And it is a good thing they have that engine running smoothly, because the science they are funding and sharing is getting incredibly complex.
Oh, it really is.
You see the global reach of this operation when they feature the insights from Dr. Tina Bagratuni at the EHA Congress 2026.
Yeah, the European Hematology Association Congress is such a critical hub for this kind of data.
It is. So Dr. Bagratuni, she is the principal investigator at the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens.
Yes. In Greece.
Right. And she presented these updates on the growing number of treatment options that are being driven by all these global collaborations.
And the fact that her video is actually also available in Greek in the digest is a perfect testament to that international reach we were just talking about.
Exactly. But what really strikes me about this digest is how the patient community, they are not just waiting around. They are actively learning the biology themselves. And you see this so clearly in the summer video series highlights.
Oh, the Ed Forum content. Yeah.
Right. So the IWMF hosted this Ask the Doctors panel for their Ed Forum with what can only be described as a rock star lineup of doctors.
It really was an incredible panel.
I mean, you have Stephen Ansel, Christian Buskey, Jorge Castillo, Shirley Dasa, Peter Forsberg, Yazid Sawala, and Stephen Trion.
That is a lot of heavy hitters in one room.
Seriously. And they answered questions from the community in real time. Plus, Dr. Trion provided these additional deep dive videos on clinical trials and emerging treatments.
The content there is incredibly dense.
It is dense. But the quiz results from the community absolutely blew my mind.
Yeah, the engagement metrics here tell a really fascinating story about this specific population.
I mean, out of 329 responses for the WM Basics quiz, the average score was 96%.
Which is astounding.
And the Navigating Initial Treatment Options quiz, the average was 90%.
So incredibly high.
And then the WM Complications Conversation quiz average was back up to 96%. I mean, are these patients basically low-key medical students at this point?
Honestly, yes. That 96% score on the complications quiz, that means these patients know exactly which subtle symptoms signal a severe secondary issue.
Right, they know what to look for.
They understand the mechanics of hyperviscosity or specific neuropathies. This level of education completely transforms the patient.
From a passive recipient of care to, like, an active partner.
Exactly. They become a highly active partner with their specialists.
And because this community is so highly educated, they clearly require a constant high-level feed of information, which perfectly explains the sheer density of their upcoming events and webinars calendar.
It is a very packed schedule.
It is. But looking closely at this calendar, it is a real alphabet soup of different organizations.
True.
On August 27th, there is a webinar with NORD on rare disease care. Then on September 17th is an IWMF Integrative Wellness Plan.
Right.
Then September 19th is a virtual conference with Blood Cancer United. And then in October, you have the IWWM 13 Patient Highlights in Palm Springs.
Which is a major event.
It is. But I am just wondering, is it standard practice for so many different organizations to overlap and co-host events on a single foundation's calendar like this?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, in the rare disease space, ecosystem partnerships are essential.
Essential because of funding.
Yes. The reality of the math is that a single foundation just has finite resources. Their patient pool is smaller, which means their organic donor pool is smaller compared to, say, massive general cancer charities.
Okay, so they have to be highly strategic with how they deploy their capital.
Yes, exactly. And this is where that force multiplier effect comes in.
What do you mean?
By pooling resources across the broader rare disease spectrum, like partnering with the National Organization for Rare Disorders or linking arms with Blood Cancer United, they share the immense logistical load of hosting these global virtual conferences.
Oh, I see. So they split the administrative burden.
Exactly. And this allows the IWMF to concentrate its specific funding on highly targeted WM research or direct patient grants, rather than duplicating the costs of running overlapping webinars that another group is already doing.
That makes a lot of sense. So moving from those virtual learning ecosystems into physical, on-the-ground action, you see how this highly educated community mobilizes locally, too.
Oh, the obliteride story.
Yes, the digest features this fantastic story about Ken Gallersrud Ayala. So on August 14th, Ken walked the 5K obliteride in Seattle.
Which is a massive fundraising event.
Right. It raises funds for the Fred Hutch Cancer Center. And he walked with his wife, Lita, who is living with a WM, along with their daughter, Celia, and a couple of friends from the local IWMF support group, John and Jennifer.
It is a real community effort.
It is. And his team raised nearly $6,000 this year, with a goal for 2027 of 20 walkers and $10,000. And I just have to say, I absolutely love their team name.
The B cells.
Yes, the B cells.
It is a brilliant nod to the biology they understand so well.
It really is, right? Because B cells are these individual units in the immune system identifying a threat and mobilizing together to create a massive targeted response.
Which is exactly what Ken's fundraising team is doing in the real world.
Exactly. But what really anchors this story for me personally is that Ken is a caregiver.
Yes. And that is such an important distinction. We naturally focus so heavily on the patient when discussing medical treatments, but this story highlights the crucial, often invisible role of the caregiver.
They carry so much of the weight.
They do. The disease happens to the patient biologically, but it impacts the entire family ecosystem psychologically, logistically, and financially.
Yeah, the logistics alone must be overwhelming.
Oh, completely. The caregiver is frequently the one managing the complex insurance negotiations, meticulously tracking the medication schedules, and, as in Ken's case, driving community awareness and fundraising.
They are the project managers of the disease.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Recognizing that burden and actively supporting the caregiver is a foundational pillar of managing the disease long-term.
And that concept of support being a team sport expands even further when we look at how the IWMF is fundamentally redefining what a support group actually looks like.
They are doing some really innovative things here.
They are pulling this concept entirely out of the clinic. Take Bob Perry's Wild Reset Woodlands meeting, for example.
Which was held in the New Forest in England.
Yes. Bob Perry led a group of patients, caregivers, and advocates deep into the woods.
No clinical tables.
No fluorescent lights, no white walls, nothing sterile. Just camping chairs, a fire pit, and packed lunches.
It sounds lovely, honestly.
It does. And they integrated a mindfulness exercise led by a forest custodian, Lane Hammerston. They also had a specialist, Dr. Helen McCarthy, attend as a guest speaker to answer medical questions.
Right there by the fire pit.
Yeah, right there. And the digest also lists other upcoming virtual groups, like a caregiver session on September 3rd and a South Florida group on August 25th with award-winning author Dana Green. And speaking of comprehensive support, the digest follows this emotional woodland strategy with a highly pragmatic one. Financial intervention.
Which is desperately needed.
It is. They outline funds available for U.S. patients through the Healthwell Foundation, Cancer Care, Blood Cancer United, and a specific program called Total Assist.
Total Assist is a major resource.
Yeah, the digest says Total Assist is offering up to $9,500 for medications like Brukinsa, Calquence, Imbruvica, and Rituxan. And the sheer dollar amount of that grant, nearly $10,000.
It is staggering.
It really underscores the economic reality of this disease, doesn't it? When you pull back and look at this holistic approach, From woodland fire pits to $10,000 pharmacy grants, it ties directly into the Digest's final focus on living well.
The whole person care aspect.
Right. So they feature a webinar by Dr. Alyssa Houston on integrative wellness. Dr. Houston is the co-medical director of the Pruda Integrative Oncology and Wellness Center.
And she is doing great work.
She is. She is teaching patients how to partner with their healthcare teams to manage things like anxiety, severe fatigue, sleep disruption, pain, and peripheral neuropathy. It is all about personalized whole person care.
Which is so necessary.
It is. But then right below this deep, nuanced discussion on integrative oncology, there is a bold scam and phishing alert.
Yeah, that stands out.
It really does. They are warning the community that the IWMF will never ask for passwords or banking info via unexpected texts or emails.
By placing a cybersecurity warning right next to clinical wellness advice, the IWMF is acknowledging that digital and financial safety is a core component of patient health.
It is not a separate issue at all.
No, it is not. They are actively protecting the community's bank accounts and peace of mind right alongside their physical selves. It transforms the foundation from a simple medical resource into a comprehensive, protective ecosystem.
That framing completely changes how I read that alert. It is all part of the exact same protective shield.
Exactly.
So let's pull all these threads together. We started by looking at how diagnostic clarity in complex diseases is rarely straightforward. We used the August 2026 Waldenstrom Digest to trace the incredible infrastructure built to navigate that uncertainty.
The heavy-hitting corporate governance.
Right. The governance required to run an international foundation, which in turn funds the complex cellular biology research discussed at EHA 2026.
The flashlight in the dark.
Exactly. And we saw patients acting as their own subject matter experts, scoring 96% on advanced medical quizzes, and utilizing massive ecosystem partnerships to stay educated.
Partnering with NORD and Blood Cancer United.
Yep. Then we followed Ken's B-Cells team hitting the pavement in Seattle to fundraise. We saw Bob Perry moving support groups into the English woodlands and robust financial grants working to neutralize the financial toxicity of those orphan drugs.
It is a massive undertaking.
It really is. And finally, we looked at a fiercely protective stance on patient wellness that guards against both peripheral neuropathy and digital phishing scams.
It is a masterful blueprint of modern patient advocacy. It shows that you have to treat the environment just as aggressively as you treat the cell itself.
Yeah, beautifully said. Thank you for joining us today. Keep digging into your own sources, keep challenging the way things are built, and we will catch you next time.